Tonight on Wine News, the United Arab Emirates grants 3-month visa amnesty for overstaying foreigners. Senate President Vicente Soto III to push for deliberations on the second package of tax reform law despite colleagues' apprehensions. And a consumer group hits Trade and Industries Department's expanded SRP, showing increased prices of basic goods. Good evening. The United Arab Emirates will grant a 3-month visa amnesty starting this August for visa violators and overstaying foreigners in the country. Here's why from Bert Cerudo.
Overstaying foreigners in United Arab Emirates will now be able to exit the country without paying fines, or they can rectify their status by extending their visa during the amnesty period, which runs from August 1 to October 31, 2018. This is according to Major General Mohammed Ahmed Al-Mari, the Director of General Directorate of Residency and Foreigners Affairs in Dubai.
The people whom they are overstay, always we can say they are not criminals. That's why we are here to support and to help these people to restand again and to start working.
According to official statistics, the UAE previously granted 2 of such visa amnesties, respectively in 2007 and 2013, benefiting some 340,000 foreigners. This is positive news for overseas Filipino workers in UAE who have been overstaying and cannot leave the country because of accumulated fines. Joby, an OFW who have overstaying friends in Dubai, is also grateful about this latest development.
Masaya po ako na nabigyan ng opportunity ang mga OFW na mga walang visa na makauwi na. At nagpapasalamat ako sa UAE government na binigyan nila ng opportunity yung mga OFW na umuwi na hindi nagbabayad ng fine.
The Philippine Consulate in Dubai is also willing to help our fellow Filipinos who want to return to the Philippines by giving free airfare. Bert Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue, Dubai.
The deliberation on the proposed second package of the tax reform for acceleration and inclusion, or TRAIN law, will begin in the Senate despite previous refusals of some senators. Nel Maribohok tells us why.
The second tax reform package, initially shunned by lawmakers, has found an ally in sponsoring the person of Senate President Vicente Soto III. Soto says he is willing to sponsor the said proposal being pushed by Malacanang as long as it will not lead to new and higher taxes as claimed by the economic managers. The senator adds he will closely study the proposal submitted to the Senate by the Department of Finance.
So dito sa Train 2, mukhang makikinabang talaga rito yung mga small and medium enterprises. Para magkaroon ng mas malino na pagdidebate at pag-uusapan, i-file ko sa Senate ito.
Train 2 primarily removes many fiscal and tax incentives for various industries in economic zones. It also seeks to reduce corporate income tax from 30% to 25%. According to Senate Majority Leader Juan Miguel Zubiri, some businessmen and industry players have expressed worries over the potential impact of the bill. Zubiri previously warned that removing fiscal incentives could force investors to relocate to neighboring countries, leaving more Filipino jobless.
Kung mawawalan sila ng incentives, natatakot sila na baka itong mga korporasyon na ito ay umalis sa Pilipinas at pumunta ng ibang bansa. So yan ang dapat pag-aralan natin ng mabuti.
Other senators are also divided on the proposed tax policy reforms by the government.
Hindi ko rin ma-settle sa aking pag-iisip bakit binibigyan natin ng katakot-takot na incentives and exemptions itong mga nasa gambling industry.
Ang hirap po makamove on sa Train 2. Habang itong Train 1, marami pa rin pong natatamaan at marami pa rin pong programa na dapat nag-emanate mula sa Train 1 na hindi naman po napapatupad sa ating bayan.
Senate Committee on Ways and Means Chairman Sani Angara, meanwhile, assures they will thoroughly study the proposal, which is feared and seen to impact the economy and employment.
Kailangan tingnan natin yung buong picture. Baka mareforma natin in a way na makadagdag pa sa trabaho, di ba? Mas gumanda pa ang reputasyon ng Pilipinas. Yun ang ideal outcome natin.
Nel Maribohok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The price of regular milled rice in local markets remains stuck at 40 pesos per kilogram despite the arrival of imported rice supply. Ray Pelayo's report tells us why.
There seems to be no changes in the price of regular milled rice in local markets despite the arrival of imported rice in the country. Rice retailers in Kamuning Market say the price of regular milled rice remains at 40 pesos per kilogram as the lowest.
Habang hindi bumababa ang presyo ng palay, lugi naman daw sila kung magbababa ng presyo ng palang ng bigas.
The National Food Authority explains there were delays in the distribution of the imported rice because of unfavorable weather conditions hampering the discharging process from delivery vessels.
Hindi naman basta-basta tayo mag-unload na umuulan dahil pag nabasa ang bigas, malaking kawalan po sa atin.
The Grain Retailers Confederation of the Philippines or GRECON says that for now, traders are distributing rice supply that they acquired from farmers at a higher price. GRECON also argues that the recent monsoon rains have damaged some of the farmers' harvest, although the Department of Agriculture reported that only 1% of the country's total rice production was damaged by heavy rains.
Ang problema pa din natin kasi binaha palalo yung Luzon na doon ang pinagkukunan natin ng maraming produce.
Still, the NFA reported a slight drop in the price of premium and special rice in the market. Premium rice now costs 48.21 pesos to 48.23 per kilogram, while special rice now costs 53.40 pesos to 53.52 per kilogram. Ray Pelayo, UNTV, News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The Department of Trade and Industry releases its expanded suggested retail price, but a consumer group questions the prices of some basic goods included in the list. Monoxon tells us why.
The Department of Trade and Industry has issued today its expanded list of suggested retail prices of basic products. The list has more brands and products as compared to the previous SRP. However, a consumer group argues that most of the products in the expanded SRP have increased in price. Members of Laban Consumer made rounds in several supermarkets in Metro Manila and noticed a notable difference between the prices in the old SRP and the expanded SRP. An example of which is the price of some brands of sardines and corned beef, which marked a 1 peso increase.
Yung mga dinagdag na nila sa listahan, mas mataas ang presyo doon sa dating SRP. So, reported 5.8 inflation in July. So, yung pa rin po ang aming statement na wrong timing ang pag-issue na expanded SRP. Di bali sana kung pababa. Ayun nga po monitored mas mataas pa sa nakalista.
But DTI argues that they thoroughly studied the applications of manufacturers for a price increase and assured that their justifications are reasonable.
Kaya lang ngayon kasi pataas pa rin ang foreign exchange. Yung foreign exchange rate pataas. So, naiintindihan naman natin kung bakit sila nagre-request. Pero ino-offset natin ito sa pagbaba ng presyo ng ilang raw materials.
Aside from canned goods, DTI is also studying a popular detergent soaps application for a price hike. The consumer group expressed concern over most manufacturers' subsequent requests for price increase. The group called on DTI to review the expanded SRP for possible overpricing. On the other hand, the new SRP is favorable for milk consumers because most milk brands in the market are lower than the SRP. Meanwhile, the DTI warns retailers of imprisonment and fine of up to 1 million pesos if proven guilty of overpricing and profiteering. Mon Hoxon, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
The House of Representatives will prioritize the deliberation of a bill seeking to create the Department of Disaster Resilience. Grace Casin tells us why.
The Committees on Government Reorganization and National Defense and Security of the House of Representatives have jointly approved the substitute bill creating Department of Disaster Resilience or DDR. The bill is set to be deliberated in the plenary next week to be enacted into law at the soonest possible time. The approval of the measure comes after President Rodrigo Duterte called on Congress during his third State of the Nation address to create the Disaster Management Department. Under the bill, the DDR will be the national government agency primarily responsible for disaster preparedness, prevention, mitigation, response, recovery, and rehabilitation. The DDR Council will replace the present National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council or NDRRMC. Function of certain agencies like the Office of the Civil Defense and the Climate Change Commission will be transferred to the new department. Agencies and offices such as the Bureau of Fire Protection and the Health Emergency Management Bureau, Disaster Response Assistance and Management Bureau of the Department of Social Welfare and Development will be placed under the DDR, while PAG-ASA and PHIBOX will be its attached agencies. Also, when there is an imminent calamity or during an actual calamity, the DDR may exercise command and control over relevant government agencies.
Mas kailangan po ngayon natin ng isang departamento na lahat po mula po ng disaster risk reduction, kasama po dyan ang relocation, kasama po dyan yung pagkasasaayos po ng mga plano ng CLUPS. Pangalawa, yung preparedness, warning communication. Pangatlo, pag-response kung nandyan na po mismo. At pangapat, pag-recover at saka pag-rehab.
The NDRRMC supports its measure and admits its current power is only limited to coordinating with agencies involved in calamity response.
With this bill, meron ng response capability. Lead role siya sa lahat ng aspects of disaster risk reduction and management.
The creation of the department needs 1 billion peso fund to start its operation, including the hiring of 1,000 personnel. Grace Casin, UNTV, News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
The Philippine National Police issues Clean Rider stickers as it intensifies campaign against criminality. Leia Ilagan tells us why.
Motorcycles are commonly used by riding in tandem criminals as getaway vehicles. In fact, the Philippine National Police recorded a total of 959 crime incidents involving motorcycle riding suspects in the second quarter of the year alone. This prompted the authorities to launch today the Clean Rider stickers in a nationwide scale. Police Director General Oscar Albayalde says the stickers will be available to motorists who will voluntarily register their motorbikes to the PNP. Motorcycles bearing the sticker would also be allowed an easy pass in checkpoints, and riders will be spared from being suspected of crimes in their area.
Malaking tulong to sa anti-criminality campaign natin, particularly so doon sa kampanya natin laban sa motorcycle riding suspects. Alam naman natin yung mga usually ginagamit na motorcycle sa mga ganong krimen, kahit na sa pag-hold up ay yung mga nakaw na motorsiklo, no? At isa pa ito ay mapabilis na rin yung pagbe-verify natin sa mga nagmumotor sa mga iba't ibang mga checkpoint operations natin and also din sa mga oplansita natin.
To avail of the sticker, the motorcycle owner needs to go to the nearest police station and present the vehicle's ORCR. In case the vehicle is registered under a different name, present the deed of sale, driver's license, and 2 government IDs. Albayalde emphasizes that the stickers are free of charge. He also asked the public to report to authorities anyone, especially policemen, who will charge any amount of the said stickers.
Libre ito, wala pong bayad ito. So kung merong maningil dyan na pulis kahit 5, bawal po yan, no? This is our initiative, pondo po namin ito, ginamit namin, wala kaming ipapabayad sa ating mga riders.
The PNP assures that all applicants for the stickers will be subjected under careful background investigation.
Parang police clearance yan. Kapag ikaw ay nag-apply, titignan din naman sa logbook o dun sa database kung ikaw ay may existing case.
The stickers have security features to prevent counterfeiting. Checkpoints enforcers will use a special mobile application that will allow them to see the name of the owner and the ORCR number of vehicle once the mobile app traces the sticker. Leia Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue, Camp Crame.
The Philippine National Railways reopens its Caloocan-Makati line after 2 decades. Asher Cadapan Jr. tells us why.
A
passenger train of the Philippine National Railways arrived at 10th Avenue Station in Caloocan en route to Makati City. It is the first trip of the PNR Caloocan De La Rosa Makati line after its shutdown 20 years ago.
Kakulangan ng ating mga tren na nagagamitin. Opo, ganun po yun, kaya nagsarap.
Only 3 ordinary trains are available at the moment for the reopened line, which charges a minimum fare of 12 pesos. The management has yet to advise on the availability of air-conditioned units. It is a welcome addition to the current Tutuban-Calamba route. Several passengers have already tried commuting from Caloocan Station to De La Rosa Station.
Gusto ko muna i-try. Ngayon kasi hindi siya aircon, 12 daw. Sa LRT kasi ang pamasahe ko is 23. Bukod pa yung pamasahe papuntang LRT. So mas okay sa akin in terms of pamasahe. Dito itong PNR, mas tipid.
Kasi po nakakamura ako. Nakakamura po. Tsaka mabilis lang.
It is a viable alternative transport for commuters since it is faster than buses or jeepneys and cheaper than the LRT. The train's first trip reached an average speed of 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. Asher Cadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Up next on Y News. Malacanang orders the dismissal of overall Deputy Ombudsman Arthur Carandang over corruption allegations. Senator Laila De Lima files bill detailing acts that constitute premature campaigning. And Philippine delegates now in Singapore to attend the 51st ASEAN Ministerial meeting. Thank you for keeping me company in the first part of Y News. More reasons behind the stories with Angelo Castro III and William Thio after this quick break. I'm Rheena Villamor-Camara. Good evening.
Welcome back to Y News. We pick up from where Rheena Villamor-Camara left off. I'm Angelo Castro III. Here are the headlines. Military eyes Abu Sayyaf extortion angle in the blast that killed 11 individuals in Lamitan City, Basilan. U.S. court indicts Janet Napoles and her 5 family members for money laundering and conspiring to funnel money from Philippine public funds. And Budget and Management Department urges job seekers to fill in over 200,000 vacant government posts. Good evening. The military is looking into reports that a failed extortion attempt triggered the Abu Sayyaf to carry out the attack in Lamitan City, Basilan, Tuesday. Vincent Arboleda tells us why.
The armed forces of the Philippines see strong indication that a botched extortion attempt might have caused the terrorist Abu Sayyaf group to carry out a bombing attack in Lamitan City, Basilan. According to AFP Chief of Staff General Carlito Galvez, the blast stemmed from the refusal of the Lamitan City government to give in to the terrorist group's extortion demand.
So based dun sa information at sa report, humihingi sila ng 50,000 sa lahat ng mga LGUs. And that single action, yun ang ginagamit nilang panakot para lahat ng mga LGUs, kung 11 mayors yun, times 50,000, malaking amount ng pera yun.
Galvez adds the ASG wanted to reverse the decline of their manpower and firearms to draw foreign funding and to entice fresh recruits by committing the cowardly act.
And secondly is to gain some support kasi nakita natin na yung Abu Sayyaf sa Basilan, more than 150 na yung nagsusurrender. And they wanted to make some very strong statement. And that statement is true yung tatawag natin yung bombing na to.
Local officials in Basilan have earlier asserted not to give in to the terrorist group's demands, including payment of ransom money for the release of their captives. The AFP also belies reports that a foreign terrorist was involved in the incident. Authorities, meanwhile, are not discounting the possibility of Abu Sayyaf planning to deploy bombs and sowing terror in other towns, which is why the military and the police will intensify its checkpoint operations and foot patrols.
Hindi natin di-discount yung possibility na yon. Kaya we have to be on our toes, especially so here in Metro Manila, no, dito sa NCR. Dahil malaking impact yan kapag dito. Kaya todo ang pagbabantay natin dito sa NCR din.
But the probability, we would say, hindi ganun kataas.
anything can happen. Anything is possible.
Authorities are also appealing to the public not to speculate on the matter amid investigations so as to not cause panic. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
A U.S. federal grand jury indicts alleged pork barrel scam mastermind Janet Napoles and 5 others for conspiring to funnel in and out of the U.S. some $20 million in Philippine public funds obtained through a multi-year bribery and fraud scheme. The U.S. Department of Justice said in a statement that among those indicted for conspiracy to commit domestic and international money laundering were Janet Napoles and her children, Joe, James, and Jean, her brother Reynald Lim, and his wife Ana Marie. 3 defendants working with some Filipino officials funneled money into Napoles' non-governmental organization from government funds and transferred it to Southern California bank accounts and used them to purchase assets in the U.S., including luxury vehicles. Officials are currently working for the extradition of the defendant from the Philippines to the U.S. A civil forfeiture case is also pending before a U.S. court involving approximately $12.5 million in Southern California real estate. The property has already been seized by the U.S. government and is preparing to work with Philippine officials in order to return the stolen funds back to the Philippine government. Former President Benigno Aquino III believes that alleged pork barrel scam mastermind Janet Napoles should face extradition after U.S. court indictment. May Bermudez will tell us why.
Janet Napoles should face extradition in the United States for her money laundering case and for conspiring to funnel money from the Philippine public funds obtained from bribery and fraud scheme. According to former President Benigno Aquino III, since his term, there are existing extradition treaties, including the one between the Philippines and the United States.
Noong time ko, there were 13 countries that we had extradition treaties with. No. And if it's in America, I believe that they have the right to, if they want to, they can extradite.
But the Department of Justice says until a case against an individual is not terminated, extradition is not an option for the accused. The agency also vows to work with U.S. federal authorities in relation to evidence gathering and investigation until public funds are returned. Meantime, the former president hopes that as Ombudsman Samuel Martires assumes his post, the resolution of pending cases against him will be fairly judged.
So, hinihintay natin kung anong magiging resulta niyan. One can always hope, and we hope that that is the...
Aquino also comments on the ascension of Pampanga Representative Gloria Macapagal Arroyo to House speakership. It can be recalled that Arroyo was jailed during the administration of Aquino due to corruption allegations.
Di ba parang having it delayed for at least an hour connotes na parang it seems to give a semblance of disorder in the country.
May Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Parañaque City.
Our proposal filed by detained Senator Laila De Lima against premature campaigning gained support from her fellow lawmakers. Nel Maribuhok tells us why.
Senator Laila De Lima files a more detailed proposal against premature campaigning. The bill specifies the acts that a local and national candidate should not do prior to the day of the election. These include endorsing product or service, whether for a fee or not, appearing in infomercial, documentary, or movie, guesting in television or radio program except for legitimate news coverage, accepting any employment in any media outfits as a news anchor, writer, or regular talent, and buying any print, radio, television, or internet space to advertise himself or any product or service. The candidates or prospective candidates may be held liable if they are found to have violated the said provisions. De Lima's proposal gains the support of her fellow lawmakers for its timeliness.
Meron talagang undue advantage yung mga meron pong kakayahan na magtayo ng tarpaulin, lumabas po sa mga commercial.
Nagiging masyadong magastos na ang kampanya dito sa ating bansa. And obviously kung mahal ang pangampanya at wala naman businesses ang mga politiko, saan nila babawiin yun?
Under the current Omnibus Election Code, any election campaign or partisan activity outside campaign period is prohibited However, a Supreme Court decision in November 2009 over a disqualification case involving the mayor of Surigao del Norte nullified premature campaigning as an election offense under the automated election law. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Department of Budget and Management is calling on job seekers to fill in over 200,000 vacant government posts. Rosalie Cos tells us why.
Around 264,000 posts are currently open for job seekers in the public sector. Based on the record released by the Department of Budget and Management, as of July 30, 2018, the government is in high demand for general civil servants, military personnel, and workers in the medical field. The government is also looking for applicants to fill in the 125,000 teaching and teaching-related positions. Budget Secretary Benjamin Jokno says job seekers should grab the opportunity, especially now that the salary and benefits in the public sector are competing with those in the private sector.
Allow me to personally invite all qualified persons to apply for positions in government. Your country needs you.
Jokno notes the government will not be able to deliver its programs and services properly if these positions remain vacant. DBM will also direct government agencies to fill in the vacant positions in the next 5 years, otherwise they will be abolished.
It's really hard to attract applicants. Right now, because of our series of salary adjustments, the salaries in government are now very attractive. So for those who would like to join government, we can compete with the private sector.
For 2019, around 25,000 jobs are available for new teachers, policemen, firemen, and jail officers. In relation to this, the government will also conduct Jobs Caravan for infrastructure job-related openings on August 12. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
Malacanang orders the dismissal of overall Deputy Ombudsman Melchor Arthur Carandang. The order, signed by Executive Secretary Salvador Mediel Dea, states that Carandang's dismissal is due to the administrative complaints filed against him, including graft, corruption, and betrayal of public trust. This stemmed from Carandang's public remarks on the alleged fabricated bank records of President Rodrigo Duterte and his family. In a statement, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque said that Carandang's act is in breach of his duty to protect confidential information, which is still under ongoing investigation. Roque said the decision was reached after giving Carandang appropriate opportunity to respond to the charges filed against him. Senior labor officials and a group of overseas Filipino workers are standing by Secretary Silvestre Bello III despite the allegations of corruption against him. Here's why from Aiko Miguel.
Hundreds of overseas Filipino workers gathered at the DOLE Central Office in Intramuros, Manila today to show their support for Labor Secretary Silvestre Bello III. Despite the sun's heat beating on their backs, the group still stayed and expressed confidence in Bello's leadership and integrity, despite the malicious imputations against his person and honor. They also believe that the labor chief remains firm in his resolve to implement the programs and policies of the government aimed at uplifting the lives of the workers in and out of the country.
Ay talagang susuporta namin talaga, hindi lang sa como siya ay kababayan namin, pero maganda yung ginawa niya dito sa Departamento ng Labor and Employment, lalong-lalo na itong mga overseas Filipino workers.
Yesterday, senior officials of the Labor Department, its bureaus and attached agencies released a manifesto showing support for Bello. They also condemned the allegations against the embattled labor chief, who they believe remains committed to serve the public pursuant to the mandate of the department. Bello, meanwhile, thanks his supporters. He also reiterates President Duterte's order to strengthen measures to protect the Filipino workers from abuse.
Kasi walang ibang inuutos sa akin kundi alagaan ang inyong kapakanan. Gusto niya na walang mga OFW na naapi, na mamatrato. At nakita niyo naman doon sa Kuwait, siniguro niya na yung mga OFW yung kanilang cellphone ay hawak nila. Hindi kailangan, sabi niya, sa isang linggo merong day off kayo na isang. At sinisiguro ng ating Pangulo na meron kayong 8 hours lang na trabaho. Lahat yun nagpapakita kung gaano kayo mahal ng ating Pangulo.
The labor chief also hits his critics anew and challenged his detractors to go to court if they have evidence against him.
Ibang uri itong kalaban ko, kaya kailangan ko ang inyong dasal. Ang galing nilang magsinungaling. Ang galing nila, mabigat itong kalaban ko. May pera na. May pera, marunong pang magsinungaling.
Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue, Manila.
The Philippine delegation, headed by Foreign Affairs Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano, will meet with their ASEAN counterparts in Singapore. Myla Guevara will tell us why.
Delegations of the 10 member states of ASEAN have arrived in Singapore to attend the 51st ASEAN Foreign Ministers and related meetings, which will run until Saturday, August 4. The ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting and related meetings will take stock of regional integration and a host of issues. During his opening remarks, Singapore Foreign Minister Vivian Balakrishnan expressed his condolences to the victims of the Laos flooding as well as to the victims of the recent earthquake in Lombok, Indonesia.
We all stand ready to help Laos. From the Singapore side, the Singapore government also put down some seed funding as we try to raise funds to stand in solidarity with the victims. The ASEAN Humanitarian Assistance Center was also activated. I think all of us have participated in that. And we also know about the earthquake in Lombok.
Over lunch, the ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting interface with ASEAN Intergovernmental Commission on Human Rights representatives was held. Tomorrow morning, the ASEAN foreign ministers are scheduled to pay their courtesy call to Singapore Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. Afterwards is the opening ceremony for the 51st ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting. Myla Guevara, UNTV News and Rescue, Singapore.
A restaurant in Naga City becomes famous for the dishes it serves. Leslie Longbowen will tell us why.
Do you love exotic foods? Are you game to eat crocodile sisig? And adobong rabbit in coconut milk? Then this restaurant in Naga City is a place for you.
Naisip namin, paano kami makakapagbigay ng serbisyo sa buong Naga City o kaya sa iba pang karatig kung parehas lang naman ang ilalabas namin. Kaya nung naisip namin na subukan namin yung mga exotic.
Crocodile dishes can be bought for 380 to 488 pesos while a serving of rabbit costs 498 pesos.
Binabalik-balikan ko dito yung sisig na crocodile kasi iba yung lasa niya masarap talaga. Wala siyang katulad dito sa Naga, wala siyang kapareho.
Okay naman yung lasa niya. Matagal umalis sa sa panlasa talaga. Okay siya.
Leslie Longbowen, UNTV News and Rescue, Naga City.
Up next on Y News, a U.S. judge temporarily blocks release of blueprints for 3D printed guns. Facebook takes down 32 accounts believed to have influenced the 2016 U.S. elections. And scientists in Mexico set to use stem cells harvested from human teeth to treat various ailments. And those are the reasons behind the stories in the second part of our newscast. Y News returns with William Thio. I am Angelo Castro III. Good evening.
To complete the most significant news for this day, Y News continues. Here are the top stories. The United Arab Emirates has begun granting 3-month visa amnesty for visa violators and overstaying foreigners in the country. Under the program, overstaying residents will be able to exit the country without paying fines, or they can rectify their status by extending their visa during the amnesty period, which runs from August 1 to October 31, 2018.
The people whom they are overstay, always we can say they are not criminals. That's why we are here to support and to help these people to restand again and to start working.
The UAE previously granted 2 of such visa amnesties respectively in 2007 and 2013, benefiting some 340,000 foreigners according to official statistics. Meanwhile, Senate President Vicente Soto III will sponsor the proposed second package of the tax reform law being pushed by President Rodrigo Duterte amid his fellow senators' apprehensions. Soto says he will push for the proposal's deliberation as long as it will not lead to new and higher taxes, as claimed by the administration's economic managers.
So dito sa Train 2, mukhang makikinabang talaga rito yung mga small and medium enterprises. Para magkaroon ng mas malinaw na pagdidebate at pag-uusapan, i-file ko sa Senate ito.
Train 2 primarily removes many fiscal and tax incentives for various industries and economic zones. It also seeks to reduce corporate income tax from 30% to 25%. Some senators have previously shunned the proposal, fearing its potential impact to the business sector that could leave more Filipinos jobless. But Senator Sonny Angara, who chairs the Committee on Ways and Means, says that will likely handle the discussions, assures he will thoroughly study the proposal.
Kailangan tingnan natin yung buong picture. Baka mareforma natin in a way na makadagdag pa sa trabaho, di ba? Mas gumanda pa ang reputasyon ng Pilipinas. Yun ang ideal outcome natin.
A consumer group questions the expanded list of suggested retail prices of basic goods that the Department of Trade and Industry issued today. According to Vic Di Magiba of Laban Consumer, most of the products in the expanded SRP have increased in price when compared to the previous price guidelines. The group also calls on DTI to review the expanded SRP for possible overpricing.
Mga dinagdag na nila sa listahan, mas mataas ang presyo doon sa dating SRP. So, reported 5.8 inflation in July. So, yun pa rin po ang aming statement na wrong timing ang pag-issue na expanded SRP. Di bali sana kung pababa. Ayun nga po ma-monitored mas mataas pa sa nakalista.
But DTI argues that they thoroughly studied the applications for a price increase and assures that their justifications are reasonable.
Kaya lang ngayon kasi pataas pa rin ang foreign exchange. Yung foreign exchange rate pataas. So, naiintindihan naman natin kung bakit sila nagre-request. Pero ino-offset natin ito sa pagbaba ng presyo ng ilang raw materials.
In other news, the armed forces of the Philippines believe that the bombing attack in Lamitan City, Basilan Tuesday was triggered by the Abu Sayyaf group's failed extortion attempt. AFP Chief of Staff General Carlito Galvez says the blast stemmed from the refusal of the Lamitan City government to give in to the group's demand to pay 50,000 pesos. The military official reveals they have received information that the Abu Sayyaf has been trying to extort money from several local government units. The ASG also wanted to reverse the decline of their manpower and firearms and to draw foreign funding by committing the cowardly act.
And secondly is to gain some support kasi nakita natin na yung Abu Sayyaf sa Basilan, more than 150 na yung nagsusurrender. And they wanted to make some very strong statement. And that statement is through yung tatawag natin yung bombing na to.
Following the said attack, authorities have intensified checkpoint and patrol operations, especially in Metro Manila.
Hindi natin di-discount yung possibility na yon. Kaya we have to be on our toes, especially so here in Metro Manila, no, dito sa NCR. dahil malaking impact yan kapag dito. Kaya sa todo ang pagbabantay natin dito sa NCR din.
Officials are currently working for the extradition of Janet Napoles and other defendants from the Philippines to the U.S. following their court indictment for money laundering and conspiring to funnel some $20 million in Philippine funds obtained through a multi-year bribery and fraud scheme. The U.S. Department of Justice said in a statement that a U.S. federal grand jury indicted Napoles and her 3 children, Joe, James, and Jean, and her brother Reynald Lim and his wife Ana Marie for conspiracy to commit domestic and international money laundering. The agency added that 3 defendants, along with some Filipino officials, funneled money into Napoles' non-governmental organization from government funds and wired it to Southern California bank accounts. They allegedly used the money to bribe legislators and to purchase assets in the United States. A civil forfeiture case is also pending before a U.S. court involving approximately $12.5 million in Southern California real estate, which has already been seized by the U.S. government. U.S. authorities are preparing to work with Philippine officials to return the stolen funds back to the Philippine government. Around 264,000 positions are currently open for job seekers in the public sector. According to the Department of Budget and Management, or DBM, the government is looking for teachers, general civil servants, military personnel, and medical workers. Budget Secretary Benjamin Diokno says the government will not be able to deliver its programs properly if the positions are not filled in. He also urges job seekers to grab the opportunity because the salary and benefits in the public sector are now competing with those in the private sector.
It's really hard to attract applicants. Right now, because of our series of salary adjustments, the salaries in government are now very attractive. So for those who would like to join government, we can compete with the private sector.
The government is also set to hold a jobs caravan on August 12 for infrastructure-related works. And for the news abroad, here's Noel Poliarco from Toronto, Canada, live. Good morning, Noel.
Good evening, Will. A U.S. federal court temporarily prevents a company from publishing its gun printing software online following complaints from 8 states and the District of Columbia. James Bontuyan explains why.
A U.S. federal judge in Seattle has blocked the release of software that allows consumers to 3D print firearms. Gun access advocacy group Defense Distributed was due to put downloadable gun blueprints online on Wednesday. Defense Distributed founder Cody Wilson says the site has disabled downloads until he reviews the order. The firm reached a settlement with the Trump administration in June to allow it to legally publish the instructions. But 8 states and the District of Columbia sued the government on Monday to block the settlement, arguing that the untraceable guns were a safety risk.
These downloadable firearms are available even to those who could not pass a background check. It's the ultimate gun loophole. Why buy them if you can print them at home instead? These firearms are also untraceable. They will not have a serial number for law enforcement to reference.
Coming to a theater near you. Coming to a theater near you. Coming to a school near you. Coming to a sports stadium. To any public place. These ghost guns are the new wave of American gun violence.
U.S. District Judge Robert Lasnik issued a temporary restraining order holding the release hours before the August 1 deadline, saying the blueprints could fall into the wrong hands. Although Defense Distributed was expected to publish the plans on Wednesday, more than 1,000 people have downloaded the files for building an AR-15 rifle, the same gun used in many of America's mass shootings. Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department says that while it got involved with the discussion on 3D printed guns to prevent the wrong people from acquiring weapons overseas, the matter was ultimately settled as a domestic issue.
I think ultimately what this gets down to is a domestic case where it's a domestic gun control issue that needs to be addressed, not just by Congress, but also by law enforcement.
James Bontuyan, UNTV News and Rescue, USA.
The prevailing dry spell in Australia is causing a growing sense of despair amongst the farming community. Nina Bascon explains why.
From ground level, Australia's drought looks like a featureless brown dust bowl, but from the air, it transforms into an artistry of color and texture as the land cracks open under a blazing sun. Circular dry plow tracks resemble the concentric circles in Aboriginal dot paintings, which tell of an ancient mythology. Starving cattle queuing for feed look like an abstract painting with their black shadows stretching across the land, a surrealist image. But for farmer Ashley Whitney, there's no such beauty, just blood, sweat and tears as he struggles to feed his cattle, cutting the drying branches of kurrajong trees, a last resort during the worst of droughts.
Been here all my life and it's the worst I've ever seen in 58 years.
A despairing Whitney says the drought feels like it could be around for a while. His property, near the town of Ganda, on the Liverpool Plains, usually a fertile plain, is now withered, having received the lowest average rainfall in more than 25 years. Cattle farmers Margo and Tom Wollaston are afraid of what this drought will mean for their children, who aim to take over the running of the 2,300-acre property when they hang up their boots. Margo says droughts have a very negative impact not only on her family, but the whole farming community around the nearby town of Tamworth in northwest New South Wales state.
I find droughts a little bit like cancer. It sort of eats away at you. It just gets drier and drier and more severe and impacting on your life a lot worse.
According to the Australian Bureau of Meteorology, parts of Australia experienced the second warmest summer from December to February on record in the past year, and had also just been through one of the driest and warmest autumn from March to May on record. Still, for the farmers struggling to water their charges, the dry spell, which has left over 80% of the New South Wales state in drought, according to the Department of Primary Industries, looks to be a prolonged and dusty road. Nina Bascon, UNTV News and Rescue, Australia.
Facebook takes down multiple accounts said to have been set up to meddle in the U.S. November elections. Meanwhile, Malaysia's Transport Ministry is planning to take action against some of its air traffic controllers over the missing Malaysian Airlines flight MH370. Here's why from Beverly Saison.
In America, Facebook has removed 32 accounts and pages believed to have been set up to influence the midterm U.S. elections in November. It says it was in the very early stages of the investigation and did not yet know who was behind the pages. The creators of the said accounts had gone to greater lengths to hide their identities than a Russia-based campaign to disrupt the 2016 presidential vote. The company describes attempts to erase election interference as an arms race. In Malaysia, Malaysia's civil aviation chief quits after a report into the missing Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 found failures by air traffic control. Azharuddin Abdul Rahman said the official report released on Monday highlighted lapses by controllers in relation to emergency procedures. The passenger jet had been missing, the report said, for about 20 minutes before authorities sent an alert. An official search ended in May, although Malaysia's new government says it might resume the search if more credible evidence emerges. And in Colombia, President Juan Manuel Santos, who staked his legacy on ending a 5-decade war with Marxist rebels, leaves office next week satisfied he oversaw a historic peace deal but frustrated he could not do more to unite the nation and reduce inequality. Internationally lauded for negotiating peace with the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia or FARC, Santos has been criticized by many Colombians who say he sold out to rebels in return for a Nobel Peace Prize and made the country more dangerous. But Santos says he sleeps soundly at night, proud of silencing FARC weapons and beginning negotiations with the National Liberation Army, Colombia's remaining rebel group. Santos plans to retire completely from politics, write a book, and use his Nobel Prize to travel the world on lecture tours extolling peace. Beverly Saison, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the news from the other parts of the globe. Back to you, Will.
Thank you very much, Noel Poliarco, live from Toronto, Canada. Mexican scientists are currently looking at harvesting stem cells from human teeth to be used in medical treatments. Kath Carriedo tells us why.
Researchers in Mexico successfully harvested stem cells from the pulp inside human teeth recently. Stem cells are the body's primitive cells which are capable of developing and multiplying into different biological tissue. They're also the cornerstone of regenerative medical science. Rene Garcia is a researcher of the National Autonomous University of Mexico, leading this stem cell research.
The orofacial region is a part rich with cells. We can harvest cells from the tissue, from the integument, and also from the salivary glands.
Garcia adds that by harvesting these cells, whether from baby teeth or surgically removed wisdom teeth, the cells could be multiplied, cryogenically frozen, and used later in life in treatments to alleviate a variety of health problems.
We can also collect a baby tooth that a kid lost when he was 5 or 6 years old. Apart from that, a person discards 20 baby teeth, and then usually the wisdom teeth are normally removed, and so you have 4 more.
Dr. Russell Vera Nunez, a Mexican regenerative biologist, says that a greater understanding of our science from people was needed.
We want to encourage people to not only donate organs, but also rich sources of cells. What I mean is that we want to invite people to donate, for example, teeth and some tissue, such as the fatty tissue and other tissue that can be obtained very easily.
According to the researchers, stem cell research continues to advance in Mexico and is now extending the possibilities for regenerative medicine. Kath Carriedo, UNTV News and Rescue.
A woman quits her job in New York to make pet miniatures. Meanwhile, a new supermarket opens in Los Angeles, but the public may only purchase items from there that are made of felt. Jo Anano tells us why.
Following acclaimed installations in London and New York, a British artist, Lucy Sparrow, is opening a grocery store in Los Angeles where all of the items on display are playfully made of felt. Housed in the Standard Hotel in downtown LA, Sparrow Mart stocks replicas of everything from fruits, vegetables, and meats to cleaning products and even DVDs and sanitary products, just like a real store. It even has its own Felt & Co.'s ATM and checkout. As with Sparrow's previous exhibitions, every item on the store shelves is individually handmade and signed by the artist and is available to buy. Sparrow Mart is scheduled to run until the end of August in Los Angeles. Using a long silver felting needle, artist Linda Fassi pokes and jabs at her miniature dog creations. She trims their hair, wraps them in wool, and pokes and jabs some more. Fassi needle felts miniature versions of people's dogs from the inside of her apartment in Manhattan. Using photographs sent to her by pet owners, Fassi creates miniature felt likeness of the dogs. She does not make cats because she could never capture their face that well. The pet miniatures fit in the palm of your hand and start at $400 each. Fassi says it's her attention to detail that makes her miniatures worth the price. Joanano, UNTV News and Rescue.
And those are the reasons behind the news August 1st, 2018. On behalf of Rheena, Villamor-Camara, and Angelo Castro III, I am William Thio. Because we need to know, we will always ask why. Good evening.